It'd be very late again, but whatever. Anyway, I thought I'd do a video response to Fred, who I haven't talked to in a while. And I'm not walking and talking, because it's late and it's raining. But whatever. So Fred did a video titled something like, We're All Antinatalists. Sort of stating that everybody's got some standards for measuring when life is worth it, or when it's suitable to play games with the consciousness thing. He didn't exactly say this, but yeah, there's obviously people who wouldn't manipulate or play games with, torture, risk animals, to like test their lawnmower or something. They would recognize that this would be a stupid thing to do, to put a sensitive creature in jeopardy. They like to minimize those kind of risks. They could even be vegetarians and have a sense of empathy. But then when it comes to having kids, they think it's an entitlement, some sort of natural thing. Saw a video today by some girl who was basically just spouting that same old kind of jargon, like people need to do this, or it's their nature, you can't change it, and you can't do anything, and it's moot, and you're just like, what's that have to, first off, what does it have to do with anything? What does it have to do with describing the truth? Nothing. And I think it is kind of a bold truth. And I think it does have an environment that's more conducive to the conversation, because in the past, religion did stifle any kind of philosophical conversation that was irreverent, that didn't pay homage and respect the God-style philosophies, even just the generic idea of God, even if God had been turned into Mother Nature or Gaia or some other happy-pappy, whatever, an invention of ignorance. So anyway, the argument goes something like this, that, theists are basically all atheists when it comes to the views of other people, and it's only their own belief system that they have a problem seeing the flaw in, but they can see the flaws in all the other mumbo-jumbo. And so I guess the parallel would be that a lot of people can see flaws in the circumstance of that's not a given, that it's not always right to impose life, but they can't see it from their perspective, as if they were going to duplicate their circumstance or better their circumstance in some way, that they would just assume that life would be better. I think the whole point is that people don't have any natural conversational tools. There's no natural, it's not part of the natural thought process, because it's not something you're brought up on. People keep pointing out that philosophers of the past talked about this stuff. Yeah, they talked about it in a small, little cloistered group of people, but it wasn't conversation that was had on the street, or had, in any kind of public atmosphere. And that's, I think, where things can change, and where people can get get a habit of asking serious questions about our origins. Questions most people don't ask, because they're given some pat answer, like it's the way things are. Even if they're not religious answers, they're still self-justifying, circular reasoning kind of completions made out of just this, well, everybody else is doing it, this is what we do, this is what being human is, and we mimic each other, we mimic those popular norms and fall into those same patterns. I think it's, you could say it about almost everything that's appreciated by people. It all seems kind of arbitrary. It's not so much about what game they're playing, it's just a game, and it happens to be the game they've grown up on. So whether it's cricket or soccer or football or baseball, it's like none of them have anything of merit about them individually. It's just what you get caught up in. It's just what kind of food is to your taste, what acquired taste you acquire, what taste you acquire. And the idea is that philosophy should rise above all of this crap and be able to just say, okay, we understand it's just a game and it's an arbitrary choice. We understand it's just a soap opera, it's just a story, a movie or something else, and it's just kind of erroneous. The reasons why one appeals to one person or one appeals to another has to do with what their personal taste is, and doesn't have much to do with any real, again, merit. So anyway, where I wanted to bend the conversation was also to the point that Darwin's only been around, this whole idea of evolution, which kind of opened the door pretty wide to the idea that, oh yeah, this looks like now we have an explanation that kind of leaves God out of the game, where before there was always this mystery, this thing you had to explain. And even though Darwin didn't trace it back to a single cell, we can do that now, and indirectly demonstrate pretty conclusively what the story is here. And there's no rational, there's no room for a God as an explanation that fits any rational explanation, because a God, something more intelligent than me, would know better than to spend 4 billion years to do it the wrong way before getting it right with this human being thing that's only been around a very short time. And all the God stories obviously don't, none of that stuff makes any sense. It doesn't explain the genetics or the reality we live with, or dinosaur fossils or any of it. So it's just stupid to waste time trying to make those stories make any sense. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is that's sort of like antinatalism kind of is atheism 2.0. It's just taking the idea that there's no God, and when you take that idea seriously, you're kind of required now, if you don't just get caught up in some kind of social norms or some kind of social programming, you're kind of obligated now to start asking questions and start answering those questions about what we're doing here, what our origins are, what the whole game really is. And if you describe it accurately in the way it really is, it's not a good story. It's a replicating molecule. It's basically competing with itself to accomplish nothing, just to keep rewarding one thing for being a little bit better than the other thing, and doing it in some sort of Thunderdome kind of atmosphere, some sort of winner-take-all, brutal, harsh contest, to do nothing more than put a hide on a deer so they can, sleep in the rain. To do nothing but to put big giant teeth on a shark so it can more efficiently hold and rip apart its dinner. Put a big nose on something else so it can smell out and seek out something hiding from it. And we're a product of that. And our tools became the tools of war. That's how we gained our success, was not because we're individually magnificent, but because we could organize and work together and become a mob that could destroy anything in its path, anything in its way. And so it's not a good story. Our origins aren't a good story. What life is doing in the real world, the natural world, isn't a good story. What human civilization has managed to do, which is have a lot of stupid wars, waste a lot of time playing ego games. I'm better than you because I have a Maserati and a mansion and marble floors. We got pyramids and cathedrals and all kinds of monuments to just waste. It's pitiful. So even the best part of our civilization is silly and stupid. Um, yeah, so it's all pretty depressing, pretty lousy, pretty rotten. And there's no happily ever after to this molecule's progress. It's just going to keep providing instruments of war. Um, and so physically we're sort of out of the game now because there's no more natural selection for us genetically. The only thing evolving is our intelligence, and there's only two parts to that that are evolving. One is the technology, which seems completely devoted, um, to it's completely owned by capitalism. So it ends up being just an instrument of the industrial complexes, whether they be control of the mass media or silly entertainments, um, or preposterous Super Bowl phantasmagorical extravaganzas, halftime shows, or a military-industrial complex, so we can do some more of that, DNA molecule, destroying DNA molecule bullshit. Do some more competing for nothing. Fighting, because that's what we're made to do. Unfortunately. And that's what the ego is going to drive us to do. Yeah, it really is depressing. Anyway, so what else? I was talking two things, right? Yeah, so we got the technology part, and the other part that's evolving is our philosophical understanding, our this shit. How we can describe our circumstance and how honest we can be about it and how accurate we can do it in terms of understanding where we are and what we're doing here and how we can function and what the solutions are. And that's the other side to this intelligence thing. And I would argue that it's just inevitable that this negative perception is going to have to be the winner in the end, because it's the truth. It's just this. It is that simple. It's the truth. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. The universe is cold and chemically, and it's full of acid and nasty, and it's just brutal. It's matter cooking. It's matter freezing. It's matter flying apart. And in this little sanctuary where we have a little bit of protection, this happened. And but all this chemistry is been manufactured to, consume, reproduce, cannibalize, and through a mechanism of sensitive want, a mechanism of passion that compels us, not reason, not logic, not the intelligence. The intelligence can only really be a slave to our addiction, in terms of having a functionality. I mean, if we weren't making a problem, intelligence would have nothing to do. The best part of intelligence is figuring out how to do something to satisfy and comfort the afflicted. So, so I just think, these people who think it's futile to have the conversation, I think they're being silly, especially when they have nothing but silly mush to argue about why life means something. The mush of what's the way it's always been, or it's nature says so, it's our nature, like that somehow is a justification. I know for most people nature is like life, a little fluffy, happy word. And if not happy, it's somehow it's balanced. It's got a circle thing in it, like the Lion King. It's all circly, but it's not. It's a DNA molecule, being engineered to be a better computer, and that's how it's been cooking for 4 billion years, and just by bizarre circumstance, we're able to step out of the maze, to climb up on the walls because we have this intelligence, to look at it, to survey the circumstance, and to say, is this a game worth playing? And certainly to say, is it ethical to force somebody else to play it? I don't think so. Because there's nothing to be gained. There's nothing to be gained to drag somebody out of nowhere and throw them into this poorly constructed somewhere. It's not good enough. It can't be good enough because the only thing it feeds on is this competition, is this gratification through consumption. And the only way to consume to satisfy an ego is usually at something else's expense. Yeah. So anyway, so I guess my point would be is that atheism isn't just not being religious. Isn't just rejecting a stupid religion and keeping your dumb religion, or rejecting all religion. It's really got to come with the component where somebody has an alternative explanation for our existence. And I don't think an honest alternative explanation can at all justify the friction that's obvious, the waste that's obvious in how we're functioning. If the maze game was an engine, you wouldn't turn it on, because it consumes more than it produces. It's just obvious. Yeah. Alright, enough of a video. So anyway, yeah, I mean, this antinatalism word probably isn't going to work, because there are a lot of people who are just going to play games with it, like it just means reducing population, or it just means humans, or it just means something else. And no, I mean, it's a cheat of the word, because very few antinatalists who really preach the philosophy have in mind trying to somehow make life better by reducing the amount of it. It's not just that there's too much of it, it's that it's too messy. And it's not just that it's a human problem, it's a sentient creature problem. And the easiest solution is to quit imposing it, quit creating new victims. And that's what it means. It just doesn't mean, have one baby instead of two. It's more than that. So anyway, we'll have to work on that one. Some other jargon. Anyway, enough of a video. So, till next time. Oh, I'll post a link. I am working on a little pyro thing that I was working on something else, and I said, well, I can do this. It's almost like a subscription box, except it's not your subscription box. So I don't know whether it's going to be of much value. Well, we'll see how it works out. So it'll just be a bunch of people I'll have on a list, and if they made a recent video, it should show up sooner or later. And so, yeah, it may or may not be of use. Figure that out. Anyway, I'll post a link. So there's 3 pages now. There's logic, antinatalism, and then whatever group of people I'll put into the group. I guess mostly people who are talking on this subject will be in that subscription group, or whatever. So anyway, enough for the video. Till next time.